Oh, hello there. Don't see you. But since I have you here, all however many of you there are, have you guys noticed something about the latest season of MLP? I know, it's a strange question to ask, but bear with me. Have you noticed anything off? Besides the scripts, I mean. About a certain lack of characters. Starlight, Glimmer mainly. Don't you think that's odd, how she should be the focus point of this season, but we don't really say that too much. And no one else seems to be questioning that either. Now, I was recently looking at a chap's video called Brony Notion and why he believed Twilight Sparkle to actually be Clover the Clever. It was a far-fetched theory with a bunch of holes in it. I mean, he had such amazing logic as, obviously, Twilight is Clover the Clever because during the play, she played Clover the Clever and she was wearing a coat which would have hid her wings, despite the fact that everyone else was playing other characters too, and they were all wearing cloaks because it was winter. So obviously his theory left a lot to be desired. But there was something that he mentioned that got me thinking. He mentioned how Twilight must have traveled back in time to be Clover the Clever. Now, it's never actually ever stated why she does this, but I realized something. I realized a horrible, horrible truth. Starlight Glimmer may in fact be the most evil character and smartest character, most powerful character the MLP series has ever known. So let's start at the beginning of the end. Starlight Glimmer in the season 5 finale had perfected the time traveling spell. She had full reign of the past. Notice how I said past and not future or just time in general. That will be important later, kiddies. She was attempting to change the events of the Sonic Rainbow to ensure that Twilight and her friends never came together. Through this, we saw different outcomes of the present through slightly different changes on how she stopped the Sonic Rainbow. This actually directly contradicts an earlier episode, the episode entitled It's About Time. Time was shown to be a constant in that episode. It cannot be changed and it cannot be altered in any way. However, Starlight demonstrated changes have a huge ripple effect no matter how small and seemingly insignificant that change is. And simply knowing about the future should have changed the future, but it didn't. So why couldn't Twilight essentially change the outcome of what boils down to be a bad day? Because Starlight didn't want her to. The only possible explanation for this would have to be some sort of outside force correcting Twilight's actions to result into the same outcome. As far as we know, the only other person to have the magical power and knowledge to do such a thing would be Starlight. Not only that, she's the only one with the motivation. But why? Why would Starlight bother ensuring Twilight had a single bad day? Is she really just that petty? No. Because it made Twilight believe time could not be changed. It stopped the curious scholar who studies everything from studying a particular set of magical principles. Starlight didn't want Twilight to know about time magic. But Molly, I hear you screaming in the comments, where's your evidence for Starlight's interference? Well, that's just it, lad. There wouldn't be. You wouldn't be aware of a temporal disruption as a three-dimensional being. You have to exist outside of the plane to see it. Essentially, this would mean you would have to be outside of both time and space to actually see the ripple occur and not be affected by it. Unfortunately, to act requires two distinct points in time and space. So while any distortion doesn't affect you, you lack the ability to be aware of the events taking place to begin with. Alas, if you've been paying attention, you probably would have put two and two together and said to yourself, Molly, if you have to exist outside of time and space not to be affected by the past, you can't act if you are, then that means that Starlight has to be within time and space. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to change it. But if she's there, then how is she not affected by the changes that she makes herself? Well, you're right. We can tell though that from the finale, It doesn't affect her or Twilight. But why? Because they are outside of time and space. But you said—
Cut me off again! Say what happens!
They do have 2 distinct points in time, in fact more. You see, one way time travel works, of the many possibilities, it's actually quite deep, and I don't feel like getting into all this physics behind it, so you're free to go look this up for yourself, lad. Time travel might involve communication between 2 points in space and time. Thus, it requires such a device to exist at both points, so the device must be invented first, and that would be the earliest point travelers could go to. So essentially, there are 2 points anchoring them to the stream. What are those 2 points? Well, one of them, Starlight launching the spell. That is essentially time 0 for all intents and purposes. The other is the Tree of Harmony. Notice one of the constant in all events regarding the time travel is the map itself. The map is always still there. It's a direct link to the Tree of Harmony. The Harmony Tree has been around for thousands and thousands of years, even longer than Celestia and Luna because they discovered it. This radiant energy is what most likely fueled the spell to begin with. Why else did she use it in the castle with the map proper? Remember when I mentioned that she could only go backwards in time? That's because notice how the time spell would only bring them back to the current time of when the spell was first activated. So what does that mean? It means time 0 is as far as they can go forward in time, but they can go backwards in time to the creation of the tree. Now why can't they go forward? Well, if you look, it looks like that the planet doesn't last too long. Not only that, but if you remember, the tree is vulnerable. It's been strangled before. All that radiant energy can't be destroyed, which means that some sort of event without the main 6 would lead to the destruction of the tree. As we saw, it's just a barren wasteland, and the ultimate, or at least what we consider to be the ultimate destination of the planet without the main 6. Complete and total annihilation of all living life. So what do we have? We now have Starlight with at least 3 anchors. The tree, the map, and time 0. Why is Starlight really doing this? Why would she go back and stop Twilight from learning time magic? Isn't she reformed? Wouldn't any plan she have be stopped at that point? Didn't you see her heartfelt apology? Well, none of her plans did stop. In fact, this is probably all part of her plan. Because she's not reformed. Do you honestly think someone who is literally beyond time and such a scholarly person didn't know about the anchor point of the main 6? Do you honestly think she didn't know the deeds they've done, the people they've stopped? You honestly think that the only information that she gathered on Twilight was the few seconds she was sitting in on her speech? Then how dumb do you really think she is? You see, all of this just got me thinking. In all the different futures that we saw, there was one that stood out above all others. There was one with Tira. And that got me thinking here. What if Starlight noticed how Tirek was able to suck magic from not only other Alicorns, but even Discord himself? Discord being the spirit of chaos, entropy incarnate, which is ultimately what Starlight wants. The essential heat death of the universe, true equality where all motion and energy is gone. Everything is completely even. But that's a theory for another day. What if she learned from Tirek, from observing him, how to absorb magic? We say she's a quick learner. I mean, for God's sake, she invented time travel. What if she learned that and that's why she's so powerful? Sure, she's been strong before, but she wasn't strong enough to take on an Alicorn before. And now she's going toe to toe and even beating her in magical prowess. You see, Starlight's not an Alicorn and she's doing spells that we've never seen Twilight even attempt. She's levitating, she's going backwards in time, her power seems to be able to outdo Twilight's. What if she's not reformed? What if she's letting Twilight get stronger and stronger and stronger? Kind of like Cell if you've seen Dragon Ball Z. If a fruit hasn't fully ripened yet, why would you pluck it? Starlight's just biding her time here. She's just waiting for the moment to strike. But hey, that's just a theory. A pony theory. I've been Faith and Moliminous. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit me up on Twitter and follow me. Let me know down below what you thought about this theory. There's a lot of holes in it, I'm willing to admit that, but that's because we didn't go as in depth into it. This video was pretty much inspired by the Brony Notion's style of making videos and his recent videos. So, this is kind of like an homage to him. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like. Peace to him out.